Good morning, listeners. This is Jim the Keys Bartender coming to you on this chilly morning here. We got the windows open. Chilly morning here in the Keys. Chilly for us. Probably absolutely paradise for you up north. And I apologize for that relating that story to you. But it's a beautiful morning. It's nice and clear. I'm drinking my coffee. What could be better? We are in the midst of our busy season, but spring break is coming up. And whenever I think of spring break, I think of some of my spring break stories. When I was in one of the trips I had when I was in college, it was my sophomore year at Drexel University. I was in a fraternity, and one of my brothers brought to my attention, he says, listen, you have family in Tampa. I think it was Tom Brown. You have family in Tampa. How about if we go head south and visit your family, and then we can wheel and deal our spring break on the dime. And everyone, I think we had a couple $100 each to spare. So that was enough for gas. My buddy Tom Brown had a Volkswagen, like an old Volkswagen bus, 1970, but it's 1984 at the time. And there was maybe 6 of us that headed south. And we had a wonderful time. And there's nothing like when you're heading out of the cold weather and then heading south, out of the icy, snowy clutches of northern United States to the warm embrace of Dixie, which is the South. And I think we really started noticing when we hit South Carolina. It's pretty sweet. But some of the best stories, when I think it's spring break, it just brings me ideas of vacations and parties and good times. And one of the best times I've had was 87 or 88. And at this point, I'm out of school. I'm working in catering as a catering manager. And a group of people that I work with decide to get a house down the shore, Jersey Shore, Sea Isle City. And one of the guys says, it's only for some ridiculous little amount of money. I think it was $200 a piece. And we rented it, or maybe more. And there was 5 of us. And we rented it for the month of July, which is situated, Sea Isle City is situated a little north of the family vacation place at the time, which was Wildwood, and south of Ocean City, New Jersey. And there was a couple other smaller towns too, Avalon, Stone Harbor. But Sea Isle was the 20-something spot to hang out. Wildwood was more of like, older high school kids, younger college kids. But once you get to Sea Isle, it's almost all college kids. And it was a big happening bar scene. We had this really, for us, it was a nice house. It was 5 bedrooms. I ended up getting a nice sized bedroom myself. And we had a ball that month. We really did. But some of the things we did was, it was hilarious. I mean, if I recall, I can't really do it. I'm going to relate a story, and I'm going to segue that story into a restaurant story. But I have to tell some of these other stories to give you kind of context of what kind of house we were living in. So it's 4 guys and me, which makes it 5. And we're just hanging out, having a good time, going to the beach in the morning. I would put together, I was drinking obviously at the time. I didn't get sober until later in life. But I would prepare one of those drink coolers, half-gallon of Tanqueray and tonic, take it down to the beach, hang out at the beach till like 2 o'clock, and then we'd come back and go to happy hour at this bar, and then hang out at the house and do all sorts of things. One of the times, there was always water fights for some reason. I'm saying we're in the 20s and our 20s and we're doing water fights. And one time I'm coming back from the beach, and at a lot of places, wherever you go to a short time where there's a beach, they have outdoor showers so you can shower off the sand. Behind the house they had a stone backyard with these small, landscaping stones and a enclosed shower for you to shower off the sand and all that. And one time I was in there and I'm coming out, then all of a sudden I see they start hitting me with water balloons. I just came out of the shower, and I think I grabbed the hose and started spraying up at them. And I noticed, I said, why the hell do these guys get all these water balloons from? Why would a bunch of 20-year-olds and a couple of the girls that were with them have, why would they go out of their way to buy water balloons and stuff? That's a lot of planning. And as I look closely, I noticed they were condoms. I'm looking at it, I go, holy shit, guys, that's expensive balloons. And I noticed it was, after I found out, it was the box of condoms I had, about $12 worth of condoms were thrown out the window at me. We also had, one of the guys we were with was a bigger guy, a larger guy. And we'd sit out front, smoke cigarettes, he'd smoke a cigar. I swear to God, every night we'd be sitting there. He had this spindly patio furniture. This guy's sitting there, all of a sudden, one side breaks, the weld on the chair. After 2-3 weeks, I think there were like 8 chairs. We ended up having 2 chairs left. So the last week we came back, the last week I had gone back to Philadelphia, which intermittently had to go into town and work, because it wasn't that I took the whole month of July off, but we had weekends. I worked weekends, I came back on the weekdays. And I think there was maybe 1 or 2 weekends I stayed. So I come back the last week, and all of a sudden there's all these patio furniture. I said, I'm not kicking in for that because I didn't break it. They said, don't worry, it didn't cost anything. And I found out a little later that they went on a midnight ride. The guy that broke the chair and one of the other guys, and they did a 5-finger discount by just lifting the furniture off other people's patios, which I thought was a little risky. I necessarily wouldn't do that in town. But some of the things we also did was they went on a midnight blues fishing trip. Now, I wasn't much into that. I would go out and hang out in the bars and stuff like that, but I wasn't going to go fishing at night. And so I hung out till like 3 o'clock, and they were fishing until like 5 in the morning. And when I woke up the next day around 9, I see these guys sitting in their underwear on our back stone backyard in chairs, and they're filleting the fish. And I'm just wondering, I said, why the hell are they doing that? And all of a sudden they're taking the guts and they're throwing them on the stones. I said, should you be doing that? And they said, don't worry, the seagulls will eat it. Well, the seagulls didn't eat it, and for about a week we were pouring bleach or whatever to get the stink out of that, because seagulls, believe it or not, seagulls have a bottom tier of food they would eat, and rotting guts of fish is not one of the things. Also, we got a hold of some crime scene tape, and we taped a body outline on the sidewalk out front, which the police had us the CIO police promptly had us remove after 2 days. One of the guys that broke the chairs, was a counselor at a assisted living facility for special needs adults. And when I say special needs, they were emotionally and mentally different abled, I guess. I don't want to say disabled, but they had psychological and developmental issues. And at one point he said, listen, one of these days we're going to have a day trip, and we're going to have a busload of these people come down for a day or two. We went, what? And he goes, remember how much you had to put in for the apartment, for the house? And I said, yeah, 200 apiece. Well, it cost $2,000, and we put up 1,000. And I said, okay, how did you do that? He goes, well, I had the group home that is bringing these people down pitch in the other for their people. And then we were like, okay, we kind of knew that before that they were pitching, and we didn't realize it was up to 50%. So we all pitched in and we helped out, and there was a group of people that came down. We had a great time. So we're very, if you think of 20-something-year-old guys dealing with the psychologically and mentally challenged, that it would be funny. But actually, that was the least funny part of it. It's the least funny. No, it really wasn't. So we had it was a great time there. I met later on in the month. My best friend at the time brought a friend of his, a female, down who was just a work friend, and we ended up having a relationship and ended up getting engaged, but not married. I was engaged 4 times. So to illustrate that, you get a feel for what the vacation home was. Well, 4 days into it, previous to this previous vacation, one of the relationships I met a girl at an anniversary party. And it was her grandparents' 40th anniversary. And I was managing at the catering facility. And this woman, I got 40th or 50th anniversary, something like that. This woman was a year or two younger than me. We ended up going on several dates. And during the dates, the first date, I should have known that things weren't going to go well. She was the one that I took to a restaurant on the Delaware River. It was called the King George Inn. I'm not going to use her real name. I'll just say it was the name of someone I never dated, Jennifer. Let's call her Jennifer. So I take Jennifer to the King George Inn, one of the oldest continually run restaurants in the United States. And she was, I sound like a know-it-all. I realize that. But she was, I think, of the same ilk as me. So we sat down at dinner, and she said she liked Zinfandel or something like that. And I said, hey, let's get a carafe of Zinfandel in front of the server, the gentleman that came in. And he goes, okay, carafe. And she goes, you should say carafe. And I said to her, what? And she goes, you should say carafe. So I looked at the waiter, and I go to the waiter, I said, oh, are you from this area? He goes, are you from? We were in, the restaurant was in Bristol, Pennsylvania, about 15, 20 miles north of Philadelphia. And I said, have you been to the Philadelphia Zoo? And he goes, yes. Have you seen the giraffe? Well, at that point, it took me about 15 minutes to recover from that, because that girl was kind of pissed off. And this girl, Jennifer, we ended up going on a couple subsequent dates. And they didn't get any better. It was normally at that age, when I dated someone 2-3 times, we were getting pretty physical if we hadn't been physical already. This wasn't progressing. The more we dated, the further apart I was getting from this girl, and the further I wanted to be apart. I don't even know why. I think I was dating for the sake of dating. I was in the middle of a maybe I just had broken up a relationship. I was kind of alone, and I wanted to try this out. And there was some evidence that maybe this relationship could work out. So we're going out like 2-3 times. The physical thing isn't really progressing, so I don't think anything's happening. So I said to her, "Hey, listen, you're not going to see me in the next couple weeks because my friends and I have gotten a house down the shore, and it wasn't the relationship wasn't progressive, so I didn't do. But I said, if you want to come down, come and visit." Now, it was one of the first times I ever had a place that I could really invite someone to. I think I wasn't living at home either at the time. I don't think I was. It was right after college, so I wasn't living at home. And I hadn't invited her to the house, so, I mean, why would you think I'm inviting you to a vacation home if we haven't slept over yet? So Jennifer, I don't hear from Jennifer for 2 weeks, and I'm down the shore at the house in Sea Isle. It's July 4th weekend. So we just got it for July, so we're only a couple days into it, but we're guys in their 20s doing stupid things, right? And for some reason, we're sitting on the roof drinking. We're sitting on the roof drinking. There was a patio, like a flat sun deck. I wasn't on the side of a inclined roof drinking, but I was on the patio deck that was kind of like a sun porch. And we're hanging out. It's a beautiful day. We're looking at the sun. We had made it to the beach and we're on the way back, or we didn't go to the beach yet, or things like that, but we're just hanging out. And then I get a call from one of the guys saying, "Hey, Jim, there's some people to see you, some girls to see you." And I go and take the shortcut by walking over the peak of the roof to look over. It sounds like a story. And then I fall off the roof. No, I did not fall off the roof, and falling off the roof did not happen at that time. Or ever. I've never fallen off a roof. I guess I'm going to clarify that right now. So I go over the roof and I look over, and as I crest the roof, I see a pretty blonde, and then I see Jennifer. And Jennifer's a brunette. And pretty brunette. We're just not hitting on the cylinders. I go, "Oh, okay." So I go, "Come on in." I tell him to come in the house. I'll be down. So he came down, and it was Jennifer and her cousin. And I make them some drinks. We're hanging out for a couple hours, laughing and having a good time. So we make plans to go out for drinks with it. We were having a good time. The cousins were laughing. I'm really clicking with the cousin, so I don't know what's going on there. She's laughing her head off. Maybe they smoked a little weed or something like that. I don't know. So we make plans. They're staying at a hotel. I didn't really invite her to stay over because there's all these guys, and we don't have a physical relationship yet. So I go over to their hotel room before we go out, and then all of a sudden, Jennifer's getting all pissy. And her cousin is being a little warm. Nothing ever happens with the cousin. Nothing happens between me and the cousin. I'm not saying I didn't want anything to happen between me and the cousin, but I wasn't that sharp a guy to be able to make a transition like that. So we're talking. We end up going for drinks. It's not a very tense situation. I don't realize at the time because I'm drinking, but she's tense. So we go out. We go back to the house after we had a couple drinks out, and they have drinks there with my friends. I'm introducing friends. Friends are having a good time talking to Jennifer and her cousin, and I decided to go up to my room after a while. I'm just like done. I'm tired, and I said, "Figure I'm going to take it easy till like 9 o'clock tonight." It was I don't know what time it was, but I was going to take a nap. I know, in 20s, I'm going to take a nap. But, it's going to be a late night. And you're down the shore, you can do whatever you want. Had the wind. So I go up, they're talking, and she comes storming up. She says, "How can you leave me down there?" I said, "My friends, they're very nice guys. they're not aggressive, aggressive with the girl. They were very entertaining. And she goes, well, I just want you to know. And when I'm laying in bed and she comes in, I'm not going to have sex with you. And I said, well, at this point, she doesn't really understand. I'm like, I'm perfectly fine without that. And I say, okay. And she doesn't like that one bit when I said that. That's, when I said, okay, I was supposed to say, hey, why would you say something like that? I guess I should have said that. But it was one of the times in my life I actually did the right thing because I didn't give her any. I guess I never tilted my hand suggesting that this relationship was going any place further. So she gets all pissed off. She runs out the door, grabs her cousin, and leaves. Okay. The next day, we had come back from the beach. It's 3 o'clock. I figured she had left town. Nope. Jennifer comes up with her car, and she's yelling at me. She goes, you invited me here, blah, 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 and you didn't invite my cousin. I said, well, you brought your cousin. She goes, yeah, but you were talking to her, and I was talking to her because of your cousin. And I go, okay. I say, obviously this isn't working out. She goes, oh, that's right, I'm leaving. So she's in her car. We're in front of the house. She takes off. I'm not in her car. I'm just standing there. The bridge is 2 blocks away that takes you off the island, which is Sea Isle City. It's a barrier island, and takes you to mainland. And I figure she drove off, and I'm not like in the house. The car comes back, and she calls me back down, and I go, okay. And it's a couple more minutes. And she yells and leaves. Does the same thing, drives off, comes around, stops in front of the house. Now, she does this for another 5 minutes, starts yelling at me, and I say, I excuse myself. I say, I'll be right back. I got to do something. It sounds like I have to go to the bathroom. But what I do is I go in and make myself a drink, and I carry out a bar stool. I take the bar stool, put it on the edge of the road in between 2 cars. And she has her window down, and I'm sitting there talking out of a drink. She goes, you really going to do this? And I go, well, it seems like you're going to keep on doing this, so I better make myself comfortable. It drives her to a new level, which I'm not really, at this point, I think I'm not getting any of the social clues and something like that. Someone getting angry, and she's just getting angrier and angrier. And she does that leaving thing twice, but I sit on the stool just thinking she might be back. And she did come back twice. And the third time she did not come back. But I think under the impression she was pretty sure that I didn't want her to leave. She was absolutely sure that I didn't want her to leave. Now, how I relate this to a restaurant story. There are people, sometimes there's regulars, and the regulars are in a relationship with the people that work at the establishment. And sometimes the relationship goes sour. People feel taken for granted. The regular feels taken for granted. The employee feels taken for granted. Sometimes people behave badly. Sometimes the regular behaves badly. They're very demanding. They're rude. They're yelling sometimes. Sometimes the worker is rude and non-responsive and sloppy. But sometimes the regular is under the impression that their presence is integral to the operation and health of the business. So that let's say they're drinking of dark rum and ginger ale, happy hour, dark rum and ginger ale for $3 a drink is integral or essential to the bottom line. And that if they leave, your business will dwindle and die off because you cannot do without them because they're so important. They're so important that if they leave and they tell other people, the other people will leave. Now, if you're there by yourself and always arrive by yourself, you arrive by yourself and you leave by yourself, you do not have that big a following. Now, if you go in a group on many places, if you have like 10, 12, 15, yeah, maybe it could be integral if you are the center of attention. But if you're not the center of attention, you could just be one of those people that they can do without. Same thing as an employee. I understand that. Employees, sometimes they think they're integral to the operation of the establishment. And people are sadly underestimating their importance in people's lives and businesses' livelihoods. That if you're 1/100th, if you're 1,000th, let's say you're 1,000th of the operating revenue, the revenue of the place, 1,000th. That is the impact that you're leaving behind. That's pretty much it. Now, as an employee, I'm talking about being replaceable. The employee could be replaceable, meaning, yeah, you may be a good worker, but that doesn't mean that there's not someone that could be doing the same job, maybe 75% as well, if not 100%, because there's no storm. And I realize I could, in some cases, I could be the person thinking that. But I always try to tell myself and say, hey, listen, I am not integral to the operation of my restaurant. If I'm willing to face that fact that they can do without me, in relation, what does that mean to that regular? If I can believe that about myself, what do I believe about that? We could not survive without you. So, in a relationship, there's always like the Rubicon, the crossing of that line. The Rubicon was a river outside Rome, and if Caesar brought his troops over the Rubicon, it would be a sign that he is not adhering to the rules of Rome. So, when a regular crosses the line by being rude, demanding, and this, and sometimes, unfortunately, feelings get away from us and we say things. And they could be unintentional or intentional. And you may get, and then some of the things that make us believe how important we are is that when we get the ears of people that are in power, let's say managers and owners, and they listen to you and they talk to you and they say, no, we don't want that to happen. We don't, because they don't want to say in the heat of things, we would be fine if you did not come by. It's a shame because some of those people, I understand that when a regular they feel an attachment to the place, they want to feel as if they're important to it. But it kind of sucks whether you're in a relationship with someone, let's say a relationship, and you tell someone, let's say you're in a romantic relationship, and you say, listen, if you don't like it, I'm going to leave. And the other person goes, yes, fine, then leave. And there's no emotional reaction. It's disappointing to that person. It ruins that fallacy we have, how integral we are to that. And, in the long run, you really shouldn't be integral to the operation of a restaurant, either as a regular or an employee. You should be integral in the operation of your own life. Make sure that's operating 100%. I told that whole story just to attribute it to that, and I'm sorry for that. But I figure I'd give you a little insight to the way I think. And the way that I believe other people think. Now, I can't attest to how prevalent that is. You don't want to go off pissing your regulars off all the time. But sometimes there are people that come in. And I will tell you about one. There was a gentleman that comes in. He comes in when it's busy. He orders food when it's super busy. And if he has to wait longer than normal, he gets fed up and say, cancel the food. And I said, canceling food? It's like after you put the gas in your car, you say, I don't want the gas. What are you going to do with it? Or you're putting it in, actually more like you're putting gas into let's say, a gas can. And you say, well, this is taking too long. I don't want this gas anymore. Well, what are we supposed to do? Put the gas back into the underground tanks? Which you could probably do, but you really don't want to do once you put it into an unknown container. I just feel that sometimes that some people think that their concerns are bigger than the big picture, or bigger than the big picture, which is a smoothly run operation. And sometimes people are just going to try to say, well, listen, I'm integral to the smoothly run operation. And if I don't get my drink now, if you don't acknowledge me, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. Well, good luck. Good luck with that attitude. And the same thing goes for the employee that thinks they're integral. You got to get a bigger life. You got to get a bigger life if the one place that you have an issue with is going to fail without you. I don't think that's ever happened. Nowadays with a cook, I did work at a restaurant where when the chef got, he was a very talented chef and he got sick, and then they had to find a replacement. They could never find a right replacement, and the reputation dwindled. You know, usually it takes a couple people to start going, but I'm not here to say to people that, you can't be an asshole sometimes. You will be, as will some of the people that work at a place. They will be. But they move on beyond that and let it go. And if you're expecting, a lot of times people expect either from the employee side or from the regular side, they expect a very demonstrative display of contrition, an apology. And that doesn't come. That does not come. There's not a day. And if you did get that, it would just be the way for them to gloss over, mollify the effects of it. But you're just pretty much putting it on life support. The relationship's over. You don't have to drive to the bridge 6 times and come back. When something's over, it's over. And some people don't get that. Either they got to change the understanding of what the relationship is, or they have to end the relationship. I think I beat the horse, the veritable horse, dead. The dead horse, beating the dead horse. That's a horrible sign. It's like, I guess when a horse is... It comes back to when people are riding horses and stuff like that, and you're telling them to giddy up, and the horse is dead already, and saying, why were you telling it to giddy up? Just like a relationship, right? So, I'd like to thank you for listening, everyone for listening. It's Thursday. I'm on my 2nd episode. I know I'll probably be able to get another 3rd episode, and I'll do maybe a 4th one on Sunday. I'll try to do something different. Different, who knows? But thank you for listening. This is Jim the Keys Bartending. I'll be back with you. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Bye.